Hello, Anime Sickos fans. We were not able to record an episode this week due to holiday stuff and health stuff. Just a lot of stuff. Just couldn't do it. Couldn't happen. So I thought, rather than just have you with nothing, I would make an episode of Tom's Record Club, our Patreon exclusive music discussion show, free to the public at large. Tom's Record Club, that show whips every 2 weeks-ish. We pick a new album to listen to. The Anime Sickos Discord, which I don't know if you didn't know, we have one, please join it, has a dedicated Tom's Record Club channel where anyone can share their thoughts and opinions on the album of the week. You got a lot of geniuses in there saying incredible things. Even if you just read it, you learn, you become smart. Then I record a discussion episode with either a guest or, more frequently, Josh Watkins, a notable sicko homie. It's pretty great. I like it a lot. Maybe you'll like it too. You will soon find out as you hear this episode. If you like it, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/animesickos. You will gain access to all of our previous Record Club episodes. We talk about incredible albums that you'll love. You'll love to learn about. I certainly loved them and loved learning about them. If you listen to the Record Club albums, you will become a genius with incredible taste. That's a guarantee. I have proof. Everyone who does. And if you don't want to patronize us or can't afford to, I understand. You can still join the discussion in our Discord for free. Anyway, all that to say, here it is. This is the episode. This is Record Club. And if the man makes me take this down due to all of the clips of copyrighted music I use in it, I will fucking freak out. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Anyway, here you go. Enjoy. Thunder crash. Whoosh. Ooh, it's chilly out. Oh, Josh, I wish that we weren't out in the forest. I wish I was at home, safe.
Tom, you're joking right now. And literally, one of the founding Norwegian black metal people, Snorri from Thorns, is missing in the woods in Norway.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I'm not kidding. Him and another guy who I've never heard of, literally as of this week, they have been in the woods for too long, and there's search parties looking for them.
That is so. Folks, you couldn't write it better. These Norwegian black metal guys being like, you know what we need to do? This civilization, it's too soft. It's not brutal enough. You know what we need to do? And you know what we would be good at is to go into woods, and one thing that's never going to happen to us is to go too deep and die. I hope you are safe, Snorri.
I hope so too. This happens not infrequently in Norway and not infrequently to Norwegian black metal musicians. The guy from Windir, a little bit of a later kind of Ulver style, kind of second crop of bands, very popular, very nice, kind of melodic, heroic black metal, single man project mostly. He got super fucking lost and got hypothermia and fucking died. Kind of at the peak of his career. Very sad. Rest in peace.
That blows, dude.
Yeah, don't do that. That's the number one lesson of this is stop going into the woods.
Yeah, and I wish that I had learned that lesson because we're out in oh gosh, how can we find shelter? The sun's going down. And what's that? Huh?
Trolls.
Oh, I was going to say a wolf howl, but what would be even worse is troll. Oh, no. Josh, what are we listening to this week? We all know.
We are listening to Ulver, Norwegian for wolves.
Mm-hmm. That's why I was going to have it be wolves that come over the hills. Ooh. Ow. Oh, no, they're going to bite me. We listened to Bergtatt, or is it Bergtatt?
I think because it is a kind of outmoded Danish Norwegian sort of dialect, it's probably impossible for any of us wretched non-Nordic Viking kings to pronounce. So I think you could say it however you want.
Okay. Bergtatt it is then. It sounds more of the of a piece with the theme.
Put some stank on it, dog.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Josh, this is black metal. You made me listen to black metal because it's nothing but black metal November. We recently were hanging in real life, and you like went out of your way to mention like that's real. I wasn't joking about that, as though it was hard for me to believe that you would only like this. It's not it's not hard. It's like it'd be like if someone said like I'm gonna go vegetarian for 3 days, and I'm like they like we're like, by the way, I wasn't joking. It's like I know. um so tell us about black metal. I gotta say, especially as a guy who didn't ever care to get into metal, and we'll talk about this, but like I hear the words black metal and I'm just like, what does that mean? How is that different from like any other color? I mean, Vernon Reed didn't even show up once. So how can well, I don't get it. Tell me. Give me the gist.
Well, so sort of what we think of generally as metal starts to really emerge in the late 70s and the early 80s. Being a metal fan, I think, means partly this very irritating kind of genealogical impulse, which is both like kind of productive and like interesting sometimes, but as I think the Discord talked about this week, there's a lot of nitpicking and like just those stories that we've talked about on the pod. So I want to try not to give too much of a little potted history of it, but I think the real emergence of extreme metal broadly in the 80s, and this is not a joke, part of this comes from hearing heavy metal bands like the kind of what we refer to as the new wave of British heavy metal, Iron Maiden, stuff like that, is young guys hearing this music, going to the record store and buying, say, Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden. And if you've seen that album cover, it looks fucking cool. It's scary.
Yeah.
It's demonic. And you listen to the music, and I like Iron Maiden. I like this music. I think it's cool. But I think a lot of these young men at the time were listening to it and they were like, this is okay. It's kind of gay. I wish it sounded more like the album cover. I wish it was scarier and not like, kind of major key, like Thin Lizzy guitars, like kind of happy vocals. What if it were actually darker? Like, how do we get there? And in a book that I read a while ago by Dale Patterson about, where he profiles a bunch of black metal bands, from a lot of them from Norway, multiple guys, totally independent of each other. Part of what got them into this aesthetic and what made them want something darker was collecting the Kiss band trading cards.
No way.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I think that's a lot of where the corpse paint comes from.
That's okay. I support Kiss as an idea. Obviously, I support gay people. Talk about gay.
Yes, and listen, it's like it. It does point out this contradiction where like Kiss is again this band that like their image was like they're scary. They've got blood coming out their mouths. There's fireworks. They're in their makeup and their guitar is shaped like an axe. And then it's just like party music. It's like not like you can see why a young man would be like, oh, especially in this sort of era of like this increased kind of cultural fixation on Satan. I mean, that wasn't just a kind of American phenomenon with the Satanic Panic. Like this kind of went global. And I think this kind of craving for darkness spawned, in addition to a lot of evolving musical currents, some different sort of subgenres of extreme metal, one of which will eventually become black metal. I mean, the early 80s, everybody knows Metallica. Everybody knows these bands that did start to up the ante in terms of speed and intensity and like this sort of push against commercialization. Although, a lot of like Metallica, of course, became like one of the best selling metal artists of all time and really took a nosedive. But the 80s produced a lot of bands that were trying out some different things. And I think if we're talking about black metal, this kind of grasping at stuff kind of does start with oh God, Tom, this is so fucking annoying.
What?
So big argument. Keyboard Warriors talk about this British band Venom, who they have an album called Black Metal, and people like to go, see, there it is. Venom invented black metal. And Venom is awesome, and Venom is very important to making metal more extreme. if you listen to it compared to the stuff coming from Iron Maiden or whatever at the same time, it's way dirtier. It's nastier. It has this Motorhead kind of speed and kind of sloppiness, but it's more cult themed. Motorhead's fucking awesome, but they're like about having a good time and hanging out with your boys. And Venom was about worshiping Satan.
And over the top, open the door, enter hell's door. Black is the code for tonight. Act only force, feel no remorse. Crank up the amps, now it's night. Black metal. Black metal. Black metal.
We're Black Sabbath, we're like, oh, the devil's scary. And also drugs are cool. Venom was like, the devil's awesome and I want to worship him. And really kind of opened the gates for a lot of bands. But if we're talking about the actual band that started the sound of black metal, where all these bands are ripping off to some degree or another, it's Bathory. I almost picked a Bathory album for Nothing But Black Metal November Record Club, because Bathory fucking rip ass. They are from Sweden, not Norway. Sweden. And
sorry, just really quick, and I if this is going to open up another like huge digression, I'll edit it out. Okay, I was about to say, is there Sweden Norway rivalry in the metal scene? They hate each other.
Yes, actually, and this is relevant.
Okay.
I'm gonna fast forward because I could do this for days, but these bands like Bathory out of Sweden, these kind of more thrash metal bands from Germany that have this rougher sound that are a little bit nastier, a little bit faster, a little bit more like dissonant and kind of I don't know, like agitational in a way. They kind of paved the way for what we think of as black metal now, which kind of is headquartered in Norway. And one thing that got a lot of these bands, these young guys in Norway, to kind of step into this new sound was that death metal in the very late 80s and the early 90s became kind of came into its own, especially in Sweden. Sweden is one of the big kind of headquarters of bands developing this style, or I guess a couple different styles. One of them hyper melodic, one of them a little bit more like kind of knuckle dragging, more punk influenced. But a lot of these young guys in Norway kind of saw this as a kind of a house style. They were like, this was cool, but now there's just a million bands doing it. They're getting signed to major labels. It's kind of fucking washed. How do we take it to the next level? And some of these guys in Norwegian bands, they were in death metal bands, and they were like, "This sucks. We got to go to the next horizon." And there were a few people, including our lost Snorri, and the very murdered Euronymous from the band Mayhem, developing some different guitar techniques, and a lot of these guys kind of spitballing ways of recording the music, drum patterns. They kind of start to congeal a pretty loose sound. I mean, people talk about Norwegian black metal like it's one thing, but there's a lot of bands, and they're all kind of doing different stuff. So it's not really easy to turn it into a kind of a house style, but there are some commonalities there. And another thing I got to say is that Norway is kind of not the end all be all. That's kind of the more popular regional scene for this, because mostly some guys killed themselves and killed each other and burned a bunch of churches. Like, it became this big spectacle that these guys really wanted to kind of wage war against, Christendom and all that is kind of good and fuzzy, and kind of put this nihilistic, sometimes satanic energy out into the world. Again, a bunch of guys who were mostly between the ages of like 16 and like 23.
Yeah.
So their brains aren't finished cooking. They get into a lot of dumb stuff. Some of them, including a member of Ulver, are just offing themselves left and right. It's kind of sad, but it's also kind of clownish. Some of these guys are also definitely racist.
I mean,
but
talking about fucking mayhem, we got our friend Nazi Vargs out. I can't believe they let him out. That's how soft on crime Scandinavia is, because why would you let him out to say Nazi stuff and play music again? He's a murderer.
Nobody really likes his music anymore, because it's not good anymore. But we can talk about Varg, but I do want to shout out, globally, there's a lot of different approaches to black metal that are happening around the same time. And for those of you who were like, maybe not totally vibing with the Ulver album, but we're sort of open maybe to more. I would check out what was going on in Greece around the same time, the Hellenic black metal scene. It is way more kind of heavy metal inspired. There's a lot more like guitar solos and like melody. It's a bit more mid-tempo, not quite as like ear fatiguing as something like one of the Norwegian bands might be. Some really, really incredible. Some of my favorite black metal bands are coming out of there, and that scene is kind of retroactively getting its flowers a bit more, I think, in the last few years. But the America, Latin America, and Brazil, Eastern Europe, although those guys are the real fucking Nazis. Let me tell you, if your black metal band is from Poland or Ukraine, they got a swastika on those demos, baby. They are freaks. Southeast Asia has a lot of great black metal bands. Japan has a good roster of some heavy hitters. I mean, there's a lot of different approaches to this. It's kind of hard to boil down, but Norway, not a bad place to start.
Josh, tell me again, and the listeners, what is the Greek black metal band you were talking about, which does not have a guitar, but instead 2 basses?
Necromantia, Scarlet Evil Witching Black. Totally sick.
That's just so two bass and no guitar is always gonna make me go, oh, no matter the fucking genre. So I haven't checked them out yet, but I got it. Maybe I'll put a clip in right here. Who knows? I did. He. I don't know if it was good or not. I haven't listened to them yet. Josh, you know it's good. Actually, what song should it have been? Just the most popular one from that album you mentioned, probably?
Yeah, actually, I would say the opening track on Scarlet Evil Witching Black, which is called Devil Skin. That's probably the best one.
Yeah, that's what you just heard, folks. So, Josh, you've given us a lot of incredible information. Definitely more that I'm learning. I feel like I'm at school, but it kicks ass. But I'll note one thing you didn't do. And I can understand why you didn't, because as you said, in your own words, this is difficult to boil down. But you gave us a lot of interesting information. But one piece of information you did not give is, what is black metal?
Yes. Okay.
Because you're like, it does so many different things. It does so many different things. Like, well, then why is it different? Like, what makes someone, if you did the blindfold test from Downbeat magazine and put a metalhead down and played them something they'd never heard before, and they go, this is black metal. How do they know?
So, okay, there's a few things that make it kind of distinct from, for instance, like death metal, right? Another genre that kind of emerges around the same time. They both are coming out of, like I said, the sort of thrash stuff that's happening in the 80s. This kind of faster, more aggressive, more kind of aesthetically scary push that a lot of bands are doing. And so maybe, I mean, contrasting it, like death metal, you got your low growls, your guitars are down tuned a little bit more. The subject matter is different, although that is not always as immediately relevant beyond the album art or whatever, because you can't really hear what these guys are saying. That's fine to me. The kind of famous black metal guitar technique are these more kind of tremolo picked riffs.
Now, what does that mean? I don't know what that is.
So, if I was holding a guitar, this kind of like back and forth, like kind of speedy approach to hitting like a note or a chord, it gives it this sort of sense of like motion. These riffs sometimes that are like arpeggiating a single chord, and the notes are kind of ringing out, and it's this kind of sustained, like, I don't know, like movement kind of function. It's kind of hard. You kind of want to get one of your more like musical technical guys to talk about this on the podcast. But there are sometimes these guitarists are using power chords, but it's a lot of the time more either like a sort of a single note kind of repeating, or like the full like kind of a more dissonant chord using most or all of the strings on the guitar. I kind of think, again, I have not played guitar probably in over a decade.
Okay.
But that's one thing. There's less of an emphasis on bass. Although the Ulver album, I think, very pleasantly has some pretty good audible bass. Blast beats of the drumming variety. Yeah, which I think really developed a lot out of grindcore and punk, and then a lot of metal bands kind of like co-developed these kind of faster, more really intense drum patterns. And yeah, they're nihilistic, they're satanic. Again, some of your Eastern guys, they got a lot of nationalist, kind of racist stuff going on. There's a lot of black metal about killing yourself, and man, a lot of those guys, again, they deliver.
Yeah. I mean, I think that Calvin and Hobbes comic where Calvin wants a heavy metal album and his mom says the fact that they haven't sacrificed themselves in ritual suicide shows that it's just a marketing ploy, son. And he's like, oh, if you can't believe in modern commercial nihilism, what can you believe in? Well, you can believe in these guys. They really do. They really do want to do it.
It's true. Yeah, these guys, they did walk the walk. But yeah, I think people talk about, there's a lot of kind of abstractions when you talk about this stuff, like especially in the Norwegian scene, people say, oh, the black metal, it's icy.
Icy, cold. Ooh.
I kind of see what these people mean when they say it, especially the Ulver or another big flagship band from that scene, Immortal. Who Immortal are, if you are somebody who's really, really worried about like sort of moral hygiene and you're listening, you don't want to listen to any scary guys. Immortal are just having fun. They're not racist. They're like, you got to see their first music video from 92. They're in their corpse paint. They're just hanging out in the woods. They kind of know it's stupid. They're kind of in on it, But Immortal is great. They're very fast. That's kind of their distinction among the bands, is that their songs are shorter. They're insanely fast, a little sloppy. But people were calling it blizzard metal because they're like, oh, it sounds like you're in a blizzard. And I think, again, I see it, but I think a lot of people are just like, oh, they're in the cold country. And again, you could, I guess, fairly contrast some of the Southern European stuff. The Greek and the few Italian black metal bands do have a warmer, I guess, sort of like guitar tone and a little bit more space in their songs than the kind of densely packed some of the Norwegian bands are. But yeah, these once you start getting into those kind of more flighty characteristics, there's something to pin it to, but it becomes splitting hairs and people kind of just spitballing. And I don't want to do too much of that. I've probably done enough.
I mean, it's funny you should bring that up because I was talking about this when we were hanging out, which is just like every time anything metal comes up in my life, which is not frequently on purpose. I have not delved deep. Yeah. But the few times I've been in metal adjacent conversations, it's been stuff like this where I'm just like, what the, are you really trying to tell me that black metal, doom metal, and death metal are fucking different? And it's like, they're so different. It's like, yeah, to you, to and maybe they are extremely different as genres, but like, when it's like, well, what is black metal? And the answer is 45 minutes of like the history of Norwegian teens. And it's like, yeah, but like, what is black metal? Like, what? Like, I still don't really like. Is it just that they're going what they're going to like? Because like anyone can like, yeah. The point I was trying to make though is, it's like when this comes up, the thing that eats up all the air in the room is people agreeing with and complimenting and congratulating each other over saying that like it's actually a waste of time to really get too deep into genre. And it's like we'd actually be wasting time to split hairs on the genre. It's like who even cares about the genre? We're actually it's better to just not even worry about genre. And everyone's, oh, you're so smart, and it's just like don't you see? This is just that. You're just doing that also, but you're whatever.
No, I agree with you completely. I mean, these are like productive and interesting conversations. I think I'm just not very good at talking about this stuff because I'm just a nerd. I'm just a guy that's excited about it,
Well, that's Josh, you can't be putting a precedent out in the world that nerds aren't good at talking about things, because that's the whole fucking that's it. True. That's the whole thing. That's the cornerstone of my whole deal, dude.
Oh, I don't know. I guess I'm a bad nerd, but like, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, I mean, we're talking dissonance, again, the production thing came up in the Discord, a lot of lo-fi production. Again, that's really, sometimes, yes, we can get into it, but yeah, some of the like, people can tell you more granularly about like tritone stuff. People can probably define tremolo picking 10,000 times better than I did. Structurally, I mean, a lot of these songs are kind of one thing that black metal, I think, was very self-consciously trying to do was find a way, and a lot of extreme metal to a certain extent, but black metal, I think, was the most successful at removing itself from the history of like rock and roll, of like the blues based, sort of like certain song structures, certain riff styles. I think a lot of these artists came to the conclusion that that stuff was kind of washed. It's not what they wanted to do. So they are taking structural and musical influence from, I mean, a lot of like a band like Emperor, from Norway. They are a little more interested in like classical music and stuff. They've got these synthesizers that have these like kind of choral patches on them that are adding this really great flavor to it, but there's also the kind of blistering like da 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 da, and the screeching. But like the songs have these really interesting structures where there are like motifs. There's like, you know, there is melody. It's not just completely fucking dissonant, you know, like whatever. Like it's very well structured, but it is like seeking to avoid verse, chorus, verse, or, you know, trying to get outside of, I guess, the kind of the descendants of the blues, and find something that does not have the stink of like rock and roll, which at that point they kind of associated with like this kind of lame older culture. They wanted to do something new, and I think they very, very well succeeded.
Okay, that's a really, my brain went ding 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 when you started to say that, because you know, it happens a bunch of times that I say I don't like metal, and someone's like, "Well, have you listened to Number of the Beast?" I'm like, "Oh, like that's not metal. Like it is, but like that's like human music. Like
Yeah.
sacrifice
It's like fun.
is going on tonight. Like yeah, like that's we're like yes, like that's rock and roll from like hey babe, let's rock tonight, rock around the clock." But just like change the pedals a little bit, turn the knobs up, and then that's that. And like that's fine. I like that. I want that. I am not of a same mind of these Scandinavian teens where we have to leave rock and roll behind, because I think it's fun. But
oh, sure, me too. I love rock
see
and roll.
this is why, this is how they get to this strange place. And it seems like it is, they get there via like a game of telephone, which is, you know, someone listens to you know, as you say, Number of the Beast, and it's like, I liked it, I like that evil stuff, I'm gonna try. And then like they do a, I'll say, amateurish job because they're teens, and then like something about the specifics of the amateurish job they did, someone else is like, ooh, I like that part, and it just like until like there is this corpus of like known stuff that we do that all just came from what was at the time like, oh, that was just an accident with how we recorded because we didn't have any money. And it's like, well, that's the sound we all love now. Am I accurate?
So that's interesting. I think yes and no. The thing I would pick apart from that is, and I guess one other element before I forget about the black metal is this kind of repetition, is this kind of hypnotic, kind of droning, like repetitiveness, to a lot of like the sort of riffs where there are these little modulations. You kind of get lost in it. And some black metal bands like Immortal, their songs are shorter. They kind of they write a lot of really, really great guitar riffs that are really catchy and badass. But a lot of these bands are doing something a little more drawn out. In terms of the production, I think a lot of the black metal bands were certainly limited at first by having to record demo quality music. But the big fucking flagship lo-fi black metal album is Dark Throne's Transylvanian Hunger. It's a fucking masterpiece. It kicks so much ass. It is a little bit hard to get into, especially if you're not really feeling this. You're probably going to hate Transylvanian Hunger. But I mean, yeah, these like really great, subtle, like textured changes throughout this music that does seem a little bit redundant at first. I think the more you listen to it, the better it is. But like that was their fourth record. Their first album is kind of an interesting death metal record from like 91. And then they were like hanging out with these guys who were like, let's move it further. And they had two more albums of really, really being some of the first people to develop this 90s black metal of any country. With A Blaze in the Northern Sky and Under a Funeral Moon, which has That one has kind of shorter songs on it, but they're getting the sound down. But they sound way, way clearer than Transylvanian Hunger. Transylvanian Hunger was a pretty deliberate aesthetic choice. They were like, let's go back and see what we can do with that sound, with that kind of limited range. Because they were so into these demos by bands like Celtic Frost, who were huge flashpoint for all the extreme metal that came after the 80s. This great Swiss band of just total freaks who were, and I think this is something else crucial to me about a lot of extreme metal, black metal in particular. Celtic Frost were really, really talented, smart guys who were punching above their weight. They were trying to do something that they almost had the musical chops to do. They got timpanis they're throwing in there, these like big fucking sounds. It's a little bit doomier, right? The riffs are a little bit slower, and like kind of chugging along. They have this great kind of Black Sabbath influence in them, but like they were ultimately, like a lot of black metal that came after them, kind of their ambitions outweigh what they're able to really do, at least at first. And it's something that I find really interesting. It's something that endears me to a lot of these bands. And some of them are able to execute what they want very, very well. I don't want to say that they're all not good musicians, because there's a lot of incredible musicians in black metal, but it's an aspect you see a lot that, you know, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, I guess I don't blame you.
This is interesting. I do. Okay. I'd be lying if I said I don't appreciate that feeling when an artist exceeds their capabilities just barely. Obviously, when you try something that you just comically aren't capable of, well, comically is the word. It's a joke. It's a farce. But when you're going just beyond, like there's many things that I love that can be described thusly.
Oh, same. I mean, we're guys who like punk music, and you know that, and also a lot of the bands that came after punk. You know, they were certainly sometimes punching above their weight, as one says, but the results end up really interesting as a result.
Exactly.
But yeah, so Darkthrone, people copied Transylvanian Hunger. If there's any black metal record that everybody, even to this day, people just in their bedrooms, they hear that sound, they're like, I want Transylvanian Hunger. There's even a phrase for it. People call these bands dark clones. Some of them are quite good. Some of them can do something pretty interesting with it. Most of them are just like, it's like refuse, slag heap bullshit. Who cares? But the sound, I mean, that has carried on. There are still a lot of bands that kind of choose to stick with the kind of more limited demo-ish sound to varying degrees. Some stuff even I can't really tolerate, but I've grown to really have a stomach for stuff that kind of sounds like shit, which is another thing that I understand is probably going to turn a lot of people off.
Yeah, I'm not there. I like it when stuff's recorded right, personally. But I understand the impulse. Like when you put it on paper, it's like, oh yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, I can see how you'd get there. Then I listen to it. I'm just like, oh my God, record it right. You don't even need to do a lot of polish. Just record it right.
Some of that, kind of bleed together. I think, is again, kind of by design. And yeah, sometimes it really, there are certainly some bands where I'm like, you could be mid-5, I think black metal, sounds really bad when you polish it way too much. And I saw some love in the Discord for the kind of more contemporary movement of black gaze, the bands like Death Heaven, who have tried this kind of shoegaze. They've understood a relationship, I guess, between shoegaze and black metal, especially as regards guitar. And listen, two genres I love. I fucking hate how they sound together. It's crystal clear in the way that, like, one of those bands that's like ripping off the Deftones kind of sounds like the most Pro Tools, very digital kind of sound that I think it just kind of gives me hives. But again, that's how people often react to Transylvanian Hunger. So, but just on the other side of that coin, I really don't blame anybody.
The whole the shoegaze thing is here's my main thing about that, which is my understanding of shoegaze pretty much is like, oh yeah, my buddy Valentine and Slowdive. Yeah. Them. That's shoegaze. And it occurs to me that those are like 30 I know Slowdive like came back and like yay, but like those are like 30-year-old bands, and I'm sure that like when people talk about like what a great hardcore song that just came out this year. Check it out. And I listen to it and I'm like, I would have said 100 genres before I landed on fucking hardcore for this.
Yeah.
So like I have no idea what people are calling shoegaze now. Like I bet if I listened to a modern shoegaze band, I'd be like, why doesn't this sound like Only Shallow?
Honestly, there are plenty of shoegaze bands now that do sound like Only Shallow, and that don't, like you said, that are like have kind of become something else that still gets called shoegaze. Even shoegaze, the genre. I mean, again, I agree with you that people that just wave away the genre as like too in the weeds or like not productive to talk about are I don't agree with that. But it is also the case that like shoegaze comes up. I mean, famously is just the thing that like a critic said kind of half derisively about the band members looking at their fucking pedals like they were just staring at their shoes on stage when they were playing. And then all these bands get lumped into this, like the band Ride, who are awesome and they have some qualities that they share with My Bloody Valentine or Slowdive. But when you're getting into shoegaze and you listen and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know, it's like it becomes a little bit amorphous and people kind of have to retrofit over time, especially in the internet age when everybody's a fucking gumshoe and like archivist, and are kind of having these fights again that are sometimes productive and sometimes really boring and stupid about like, what is this band shoegaze or are they shoegaze adjacent? And then it's not as helpful. But yeah, all that is to say, Zoomers got really into shoegaze somehow. They fucking love this stuff. So there's a shitload of bands that are just like, we're just gonna keep the My Bloody Valentine train riding, and it's mixed results.
Yeah. I wonder if this has been done. This seems like a real slam dunk for a band to do as like a one-off, as like a April Fool's or possibly Halloween show. If you're a shoegaze band, even if you're not a shoegaze band, but you're capable of playing shoegaze to at least a passable degree as your band, you know what you got to do? You gotta do a one-off show where your band is called Shoegazi and you just play Fugazi covers in shoegaze style.
I really thought that was how you pronounce shoegaze. Is Italian stuff.
Okay. We've talked a lot around because it is how it is. We talked a lot around this. Josh, give me the rundown of Ulver and Bergtatt and what they mean to you.
When I was a music forum guy, Ulver was really big. This would have been when I was probably, 15, 16 years old.
Very good time to listen to this album, I gotta say.
Yeah, here's the thing. I did not listen to this album then, or I think I put it on for like 2 seconds and I was like, this sucks.
Oh.
I was very like picky. I had this kind of desire and this really genuine curiosity about a lot of different kinds of music that kind of bumped up against, I don't know, just kind of a young guy's kind of knee-jerk reaction. So there were a lot of things that are really cool that I came to later than I wish I would have. But the Ulver that I knew and that I was like kind of passively listening to and said, oh, maybe, was the Ulver that came after black metal. So Ulver, this Norwegian band, they are coming out kind of as the media storm around Norwegian black metal is hitting a crest. Like as the church arsons are happening and people are getting arrested, Varg Vikernes, aka Burzum, aka Count Grishnacht, is arrested for murdering Euronymous from Mayhem over some bullshit. I think he was probably just kind of annoying, but there's some conflicting, maybe Euronymous maybe owed him some money or maybe didn't. I don't fucking know. But
you might have just wanted to do a murder because it seemed
I really
cool.
think, I think a lot of these guys that did the murders, I think they were just kind of young guys with fucked up brains and wanted to do murders.
Yeah.
But all this stuff is happening, and Ulver are one of the bands that are sort of like a little bit younger than those guys and are like, oh, I like this. And they take their try at it. So Ulver's first album Bergtatt that we listened to, and the third album they did are in the black metal style. An album they did in between there is strictly kind of a dark Norwegian folk. It kind of is a lot like just like the folky parts of this album. So if you're one of those people who kind of only like those parts, I got great fucking news for you. They did a whole album of them. And then after that, they're that kind of third black metal record, which much like how the second album is just the folk, the third album is kind of just the black metal. It's even more lo-fi. It's really aggressive. It kicks ass. It's awesome. But that got signed to Century Media. I mean, they're no slouch. Like that was when a lot of these labels were kind of like, how do we capitalize on this? How do we get the next grunge or like Nirvana? Like what's the next thing in the underground that we can kind of turn into like this edgy product? They tried it with death metal, a little bit earlier and around the same time, signing these underground death metal bands to these larger labels, and that did not take off.
Yeah.
That music is, I think, just too like a normal person can't like it, basically. So that was a big bad investment. But Century Media believed in Ulver. They bought this fucking shit, and they got kind of mad because that third record, Matten's Madrigal, which is wolf themed. This has a troll story, Bergtatt. Matten's Madrigal. Every song on that album is referred to as a hymn, and all of the hymns are titled Wolf and the Devil, Wolf and Man. Hymn number 7, Wolf and Destiny. It's like
these are the types of stories you can tell. I learned this in writing class.
there is one wolf and one destiny fighting inside of you.
Yeah.
But Century Media, I think, in an attempt to kind of gin up some interest in them, were like, hey, we gave these teenagers all this money and they blew it on Armani suits and cocaine and cars. And that's why they made this album that sounds like shit, because they didn't put any money into the studio. And these guys, they were like, what are you talking about? It was obviously just sort of like a press thing. I don't think were buying cocaine, but after they got done with the black metal stuff, they were like, okay, this music is cool, but we don't want to do it anymore. It's a dead scene. We're moving on. And what they kind of ended up doing with the rest of their career, and what I got exposed to as a teenager from, prog guys who were like, yeah, the black metal stuff is cool, but have you heard Blood Inside or whatever? And, they have these albums that are like kind of ambient. There's like prog stuff. Some of the early, like late 90s, early 2000s records they're doing have this kind of corny, like film noir soundtrack thing, like a little bit of like distant saxophone under some like trip hop beats. I think it's like not great. I love when an artist takes a big swing or makes a major change or whatever. Like I really respect that Ulver wanted to do something else. They don't have to be a black metal band if they don't want to, just because I like black metal more than I like corny fucking fake film noir music with trip hop beats. But on paper, I should love it. I think it kind of sucks. And I don't know. They've as a kind of experimental electronic band, they've been able to get a lot of fans that way, and people kind of joke about the black metal stuff. And then some people like me are like, no, that was the good stuff. But yeah, now they're just kind of, and it's mostly now the one guy from this era of Ulver, Garm, who's the vocalist and writes a lot of the songs on Bergtatt. He's kind of the last guy left. He got some like novelist, is now, I think, his kind of partner in crime on this. And I think everybody agrees that by now, their music kind of sucks. Like in like 2025, like they kind of have not made any good albums in a while. But if you're interested, check out Shadows of the Sun. Check out they have like an album they made influenced by the William Blake Marriage of Heaven and Hell. So that's not bad. That has some kind of neat stuff on it, a little industrial. But yeah, it's not for me. But if this era of Ulver is not interesting to you, check out what they evolved into, I guess.
So okay, we kind of got off the track here, but I like it, so I was listening intently. But I'm getting us back on the track. You mentioned you didn't like Bergtatt right away. When did you? When did you? And when did you? When did it hit you? And when it hit you, in what way did it? What were your feelings at the time?
Interesting. I ended up revisiting black metal, I think, in maybe my later college years. And I have tried to figure out what was the first kind of record in this genre that really clicked with me. And there's a couple that might have been the first, but it, it sort of doesn't matter. It's kind of like a lot of the arguments people have online about like who was the first death metal band, who was the first black metal band, and people are reaching way too far back and being like, it was these guys. And it's never, it becomes like, who cares what was the actual first? There's not really a first. It's a confluence of things. But I heard some records that made me interested in this sound, or I realized that it was not. I'd kind of written it off as just like music that sucks and sounds like shit. Even though I liked a lot of other kinds of metal, but I think Bergtatt I probably heard for the first time probably like, I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago. Somewhere around then, I started dipping into the sort of the Norwegian canon of bands and figuring out like, what did I like? And some of them took longer to get into than others, but Ulver, I did find when I first listened to this album seriously at that age, I mean, like you kind of said, it's sort of likable. I mean, it is like for black metal, it's very like, it has a lot of the qualities that I like about more extreme metal, but it is like very pretty. It has these like these kind of weird melodic vocals they're not like, I don't know. They're kind of at this like talking register almost. Like he's not really trying to like belt. There's a really killer Brazilian black metal band from around this time called Mystifier. And on one album with the amazing title, The World is So Good That Who Made It Doesn't Live Here.
Holy shit.
Yeah, got him.
Eat shit, God.
Fuck you, God. They have this great kind of opera sort of vocals that they interweave in with some harsher ones. And I know that sounds really fucking stupid when I say it, but the guy's like kind of good. And I think it works really well with their kind of strange take on the genre. Again, that's pretty distinct from what you might hear in the U.S. scene at the time, or the Norwegian bands, or the Swedish bands, or whatever. But this guy's kind of clean thing. It's like a little bit less technical, but it's like it's very soothing.
It sounds like the chanting. It sounds like the Gregorian chanting from Enigma Shadenus. I will never pronounce it the correct way. Sorry, you put another E in there, man.
Either. But yeah, that is really, that these kind of like incantatory kind of vocals, kind of just soaring above. And I think when you pair it with the album art, I think that's where a lot of people are getting these extra vibes that they're kind of projecting onto the music. And maybe that's not unfair, right? Like the album art is part of the package. And when you put this kind of oil painting of like a mountainside and these like this kind of like grimy sky, and then you hear this music and you look at that and you're like, oh, like there is something there, right? Like it does kind of transport you to these sort of like kind of unbelievably unique Norwegian forests, in which we hope Snorri is currently living.
Yes. You're very right that like, sometimes people will, and actually maybe they don't, because I can't recall any instances of this actually happening, but it is possible that someone could be one of those sticklers who like the music has to stand on its own and you can't bring any of the contextual ephemera that surrounds it into your judgment of the music. And to me, this is bullshit. Why are you imposing these funny rules when like literally the album cover, like they picked it on purpose. It can and does have a real impact. And I feel that, especially the oldie time font that they used to write over.
Yeah, which it looks like there's snakes maybe in there in the font. I was like, is that a snake? But it's sick, dude.
Yeah. So you listen to Ulver, you love Bergtatt. It's easy to like. Is this like one of your favorites, or is it just that this was a pick, a tactical pick? You know,
a little bit of both. It's a black metal album that I think is excellent, and I listen to it a lot, and it did feel right for, again, the kind of the coming winter. It was maybe a bit of a vibes based pick in that way. But there was a tactical element to it too. Like I was making a list of like, when I'd first floated, what if we tried a metal album? And and you were like, all right, shoot your shot. You know,
Yeah, fuck me up, man.
I was going through like all of my music and thinking like, you know, what would be interesting to talk about. And there are plenty of other black metal albums that I like a lot more, even from Norway. But none of them really had a good way in for somebody who just was coming in with no context, you know, and which might have been fun and to sort of torment you and our nice, you know, record club sickos. And, you know, there are some people that do like black metal already in there. That's cool. But, yeah, it didn't seem like it would be very fun to have this thing that like I was really geeked out about that I can maybe explain well, but would have probably been kind of fatiguing to, you know, especially, you know, 40 minutes of like, Emperor again, who I adore. But if you're not really, if you got to really spend time with this music to start to hear kind of some of the complexities of the songwriting, or like be interested in following like how the kind of the drums and the guitar are like kind of moving the music or whatever. Like that's like, you know, the Ulver thing. It seemed like it's easy to break into these constituent parts, partly because of what people pointed out correctly. Something that I really like about this album is that it does kind of have this disjointed kind of stitched together feel where like they're kind of trying to figure out how to blend in the Norwegian folk elements with the acoustic guitar, the gentler vocals, the rocks clanging together with the kind of blasting, blistering, more intense black metal stuff. And I think that is another kind of callback to what I was saying about these young guys punching above their weight. They have this ambition to meld these things together. And a lot of bands after Ulver have tried to, I mean, there's a whole subgenre called folk black metal, which I would argue is kind of a fake one because folk as a category is one of the broadest in terms, you know, like it really means a lot depending on where. Yeah. That's what people mean when they say it, right? But you know, a big Primordial is a huge band from around this time from Ireland who are a folk black metal band, but their folk approach is influenced by, what do you know, fucking Irish music. And their themes are about the glorious past and the conquest of Ireland by the hated Anglo. So it's Wilker in a way, but which is kind of sick. They're not my favorite band, but I like that they're sticking it to the fucking Brits. But yeah, they over tried to kind of mesh these things together, and I think it works really well, even though, and maybe because it's a little bit patchwork in some places, you know?
Yeah. It feels like little modules of music that they Legoed together.
Yeah.
Very often in my notes, like hard cut to. And I love Vandergraaf Generator, A Plague of Lighthouse Keepers, which is also exactly that, which is also just like, we recorded our 3-minute part and we'll record the next part tomorrow and staple them together. And so they did, and it fucking rules. So I can't harsh them for that. I think that's fine. It definitely is noticeable. There was no effort made towards a transition. It was just like, next part. Yeah, what can you do? I mean, knowing these guys were teens really does a lot. I will now talk about how I feel about the album. As I mentioned right when it began, I was like, oh, I was hoping that Josh would like hit me with a big mallet or something. Like, this is like normal music for like people. Like you were talking about, like there's extreme metal that like people can't like, normal people can't like you have to be a freak to even think it's fine. There's not the case here. You can think this is fine and be like a wife could think this is fine. Even I didn't play this out loud for my wife, but I bet if I did, she'd be like, not my thing, but okay. And like, it's like, I was hoping for something more fucked up. So generally, I thought it was good, but I gotta say, this album to me has got Polygon Wanaland syndrome big time, which is that it shoots its shot real early with an opening track that really makes a great impression and makes me go, wow, okay, maybe I like really do like this. And then there's the rest, and I go, oh, this could have been a single.
Well, I do agree. I think the first song is probably the strongest. It might be my favorite. Although I would also make a pretty good argument for chapter 3.
Yeah,
You
I didn't
know,
like it.
I love as Sasha put it in the Discord, the running in the snow simulator part. I actually kind of live for that shit with the little kind of thin piano over it. But like that song has, I think, a really great use of the folk intro. This kind of like dolorous vocal chanting over the acoustic guitar, and then you get your blasting, and it has that fucking thunder crack right at
Yeah.
like the 2 minute 4 second mark, followed by that instantly that like R rolling growling like, and it's like, oh, it just gives me the shiver. It's like going to see like a Roger Corman movie and they make the skeleton fly out at you in the theater. Like it rules, man. I don't know. Like it's the kind of thing where like I just have the buy-in where that just tickles something in me. And I can see why it would make somebody else go like, why would you do that?
Yeah, here's my 3. I did not love 3 so much, and I don't recall. I'm gonna find a clip and so I don't need to recall it. But like an issue I had with 2 and 3 is, and I know that you said you were just talking about this, and I'm like, oh, that was my issue. It's on purpose, which is just repetition, especially of a riff that is very short. And they repeat it so many times, and I'm just like, oh my god, I understand repetition, but come on. In 2, it was da na 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 da na 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 na. And then I don't recall. I can't vocalize the one that was killing me in 3, but I have onomatopoeized it as dunna dunna. And so, is that accurate? Let me put it in. We'll see. But the point being, I was just like, part 1's got some fucking killer riffs plus a killer vocal melody on top of that. And then it's got 2 guitar solos, and the guitar solos aren't like shredding. They're slow, they're melodic, and they take the music in interesting new places that it wasn't going before. It has a little acoustic break that you go, wow, that's nice. Oh, wow, cool. It's like, this is great. And then 2 and 3, I don't know. It's just like the riff's not as good. It's shorter. It repeats more. I don't like the running part. I don't like it. The thunder crack is funny. I don't like the screaming. I don't like the growled vocals. I just don't. I don't see the appeal. I'm glad you get something out of it, but I am just like, can you quit that Halloween shit? Please? I don't know. I wish I had a better justification, but I don't. And I'm always going to be trying to break past this aversion I have, but I don't know if I ever will be able to. It's just like, as soon as on the second song he brings in that fucking growl after the flute and acoustic intro, how pleasant. And it's like, okay. Is this really necessary, this fucking growl? And to me, it's just, I don't know. It's like, what, Tom, don't you understand that harsh and dissonant things can be useful tools in music? Obviously, I do. I just can never accept, I always feel like it's a put on, like it's affected. And I'm just like, oh my God, can we stop with the costume? Can we please not? Be normal, be normal.
I don't know. I mean, is it really any more of a costume or a put on than like the kind of like UK punk sneer, or I mean, any like all of the genre conventions, like to a certain degree, an artist is kind of putting it on. It's something that like has evolved and passed through so many hands, and you're like, all right, we're doing this thing now. And however interesting or innovative your take on it might be, it's like, I don't know, man. Aren't we all wearing masks or whatever? Not
That's
to be
okay.
too dorm room about it,
dude. This is a great. I'm glad you're this dorm room, because this is actually perfect, and I think this helps me understand myself, because I've talked about this in the past. Is that like part of being a good performer, at least vocally, as a singer or rapper, is like you have to know how to act. Like acting is part of it. Like if you want to be a rapper, like a big part of what makes a rapper good is like how good of an actor are they? Because you have to believe that the character that they're saying either you have to believe that they really are them, which they almost never are, or you have to be like, this character is fictional, but it's being portrayed in such a fun way that I like this fictional character. I mean, to go back to fucking Serengeti Ajay from the Record Club, talk about a great actor.
That's good shit.
I mean, and even outside of rapping, because of, the Electric Nebraska thing, I was listening to Normal Nebraska, and one of the fucking most unbelievable tracks on Nebraska is State Trooper, which like, you hear like Bruce loves the band Suicide, and it's like, oh, you always hear about pop musicians liking crazy harsh bands, but like you never hear the influence in their actual songs. Oh yeah, you do. And you listen to State Trooper, it's like, oh, that's from that's like that's put on Frankie Teardrop and then State Trooper.
This guy rocked with Suicide. Yeah, it's awesome.
And like that song has very, very few words. It's not specific with what is going on, but because of Bruce Springsteen's acting, you know exactly what's going on and what type of person this is. He says to the State Trooper, maybe you got a kid, maybe you got a pretty wife. The only thing that I got been bothering me my whole life. That's a cold line on paper, but when Bruce says it, you're just like, oh, like this guy's gonna kill me. Fuck.
Maybe you got a kid, maybe you got a pretty wife. The only thing that I got been bothering me my whole life. Mr. State Trooper, please don't stop me.
Anyway, I think what kills me about the black metal, the metal growl, is that I don't know what that's trying to be. To me, like, I have no grounding in what they're trying to do. So even if to you they're hitting it perfectly, to me it just feels like, I don't know, just like what, huh? There's nothing for me to connect to with why they're doing this, what they're trying to be. They're trying to be scary. It's like, that's not scary to me. I'm not scared of people who sound like that. So I'm
not sure if they're trying to be necessarily scary. I think this kind of, there's certainly like this kind of darkness and aggression to it. And I think some of the bands like, bands that made black metal that got kind of big, in the 90s were basically Cradle of Filth and, Dimmu Borgir, the latter of whom were a Norwegian band, but, we're not really a part of this scene. Some of the early Cradle of Filth stuff is fine. Some of the real snobby metalheads kind of shit on them, but like those are bands that, because they had a wider audience, I think were kind of trying to be like, we're a scary band, but you can buy our CD at FYE.
Yeah.
And so that goes into some of the performances maybe, but also kind of the image, the photo shoots of the band, the pictures on the back of the CD or the record. But I think with a lot of these bands, they're out to explore a lot of the darker or kind of more like intense parts of the emotional palette or whatever. But I think maybe part of the disconnect here is like I think I totally see what you're saying about like Bruce or other sort of vocalists or rappers and how they're like yeah, I guess how they're sort of acting, but I think most of the time the vocalist in a extreme metal band, with some exceptions, maybe in some like doom metal or something, but like if we're talking about like black metal, the vocalist is not really like the front man. You know what I mean? Like you're not like it's not like their like human voice is not this sort of like leading centerpiece. To me, it's just kind of another instrument. And I think some people are better at it than others. I know in the Discord there was some talk about how these were not particularly good harsh vocals. I don't really agree. I don't think they're my favorite in the world, but I think they fit the music fairly well. But it's this kind of a thing where like they're doing some notes that are overlapping, but also contrasting with the notes from the other instruments. And some people fucking hate the trumpet, man. They hear a trumpet on a song and they're like, God damn it, you know? And some people hear harsh vocals and they're like, no way, dude. And it's just, to me, it's kind of a similar reaction where, you know, that instrument either kind of gels with the stuff for you, or it's something that you just kind of like hits a certain part of a person's ear and they hate it, you know?
I think it might be me because it's just like, I understand what you're saying, like, and especially in this, this album, it's very clear that it's not your sort of standard rock band where, yes, there's a front man and the backing band. To quote Bill Bruford, how Yes is a vocal band in the style of the Beach Boys, where the instrumentation is the instrumentation exists to highlight the vocals. What are you fucking talking about? But John Anderson is the front man. Like when he's singing, he's cutting through everything and he's talking about fucking sprites and wizards and shit. So I get that. But yeah, it's just like, well, you cheat of all the instruments you pick that. I just don't, it feels so silly. You know what it's like? It's like how in like Japanese traditional comedy, there's like the 2-man duo where one guy says something silly and the other guy says, what? That's silly. You're supposed to be serious. And then like a washing pan falls and bonks him on the head and the audience goes nuts. They love it. And it's just like, there is so much like lived experience that cannot be explained, that must be inside of you already to think that was great. And I just like, it would take me a lifetime to have lived that lifetime, and I already have done a lot of my lifetime, so that's just not something I'm going to be able to get.
It's true, you know.
I was talking about this with when we were hanging out, and it's like, why is it that like harsh vocals do this for me, but like one of my favorite bands, Hot Snakes, Rick Froberg, the vocalist there, he is screaming, and it is pretty harsh the way he screams. Why is that good? And similarly, like, why is like the punk screaming, like hardcore yelling? I don't hate that. I like that. Why do I like that? And it's like, it's because like I have a frame of reference there, because like sometimes I have wished to scream. I've heard a person screaming and understand what that means emotionally. And so when I hear those screams, when I hear Rick Froberg screaming, I'm like, man, I've been there. When I hear these guys screaming, like, if it isn't like an emotional, if it isn't like an acting performance, if it is just like, this is the instrument we choose to use, well, like, fuck, man, I'm sorry to say it, but like the human voice invites emotional connection, and and I can't make
That's true. That's interesting. I think that might be another kind of defining aspect of black metal, which changed over time, right? So I want to say maybe Mr. Emotion in the Discord was saying this, that like it's kind of silly that we refer to like this era of black metal as the second wave, right? That's kind of the common grouping of these bands that start out in the early 90s. A lot of the focus is on the Norwegian stuff, but again, this encompasses the Hellenic black metal. The other Scandinavian countries had their own very distinct scenes, Latin America, whatever. That's like the 90s basically. And at the tail end and into the 2000s, we emerged with a third wave of black metal. The bands that have come after this kind of like node of experimentation and sound development and are like, gotcha. And one thing that makes some of these bands distinct, a lot of the bigger US black metal bands are one man groups, Leviathan, Zasther, among a lot of others. And something that they've done differently with black metal is they have made the subject matter and the kind of mind of the music is about personal suffering, right? It's a bit more like, it's like depressive. These are guys that are talking about wanting to kill themselves and like, just personal strife. And I think I like those bands pretty well. They're not my favorite, but there are a lot of old heads who say this is where black metal went wrong. And part of why they went wrong is because the heart of black metal in its initial foundation was not personal music, was not music where like you relate to a guy writing a song about being in the world, where more of this stuff I think is about what you could roughly refer to as sort of world building, right? Or like atmosphere. Maybe something like the Ulver album can tell us sort of a story or have these roots in like narrative with like folklore, but that more of a, I don't know, this kind of depersonalization, right? A lot of black metal is about nature. A lot of black metal is about like things that are not really like immediately relevant to this kind of contemporariness. Maybe they tie in with themes again of nihilism or whatever, but like it is not like when you hear, Hot Cross and you're like, or Hot Snakes, different band. And you're like, oh yeah, like I've been there. Like a lot of black metal is really kind of almost discourages that, it conjures, the Hellenic stuff has a lot of very fun, kind of satanic or like, otherworldly aspects to it. This great record, His Majesty at the Swamp, which again, very evocative by, Verathron. That's a kick-ass album about His Majesty, the Dark Lord or whatever. And that's like, you called it Halloween music. And I think I understand that. That is like again, a kind of buy-in that I think you kind of have or you don't. But I like the atmosphere. I like the kind of vibe. I like these really dedicated explorations of something that like, it kind of, it's not like, I wouldn't call it escapist. I think that's kind of a tricky word. But it's, I don't know, it's more kind of giving myself into something that's not like personal. And again, I love a lot of music that really hits you in the fifis or whatever, Nebraska, Atlantic City makes me cry. Like that's a song where you identify human emotion in this way. That's like, this sort of doomed love and like, fate or whatever. But these are, these albums I think are more, they're reaching away from the personal in a way that, some people feel betrayed about when later, allegedly poser black metal wants to be about being sad. And I don't think that's, I understand not all bands are very good at that, but I think it's okay to expand maybe a genre's sort of, things have to change, I guess, basically.
Yeah. I appreciate this context. And I do want to say that like, it's not as though this does not succeed on Bergtatt ever for me. Like I know Sasha sent that translation website for the lyrics, and I didn't follow that very much because the website fucking sucks. And if you're on Capitler 1 and you're finished with that and you look for the little Capitler 2 arrow pointing right, it's not there. You have to do the whole thing over again. I don't understand how they made the website like that. So I didn't. Also, the fact is that reading translated lyrics is not as good because they don't fit. They don't fit the music like the original because of how words work. Anyway, the point being. So I don't know specifically the whole the entire details of the troll story. Your story of your Norwegian woman becoming lost to the land, the things that our civilization thinks we've moved beyond, they can still get you, Snorri. They still can. Don't think you're stronger than them. You're not.
Snorri, stay warm. Trolls can't climb trees.
It's bigger than you. It's stronger than you. It's older than you. And that's cool. That's badass. I agree with that. That's not Halloween. That's like real. That's real. And like to do the Gregorian, like the chanting, and especially when they like double track and start harmonizing the chanting on top of this music, it's just like, oh, this, like, yes, I'm seeing the like the wastes, you know, I'm seeing the bigness. I'm seeing that this is like older than me, bigger than me. It's not evil, but it's like nature is not evil, but it is not loving, you know. It is what it is. It's just
Oh,
strong
exactly.
and itself, and it's like, oh yes. And then when the harsh vocals come in, the illusion is shattered completely, because all I can think about is a 16-year-old going, "Bleh, bleh, bleh," and it's like, okay, it's no longer cool and big. It has shrunk so much. You know what it is? You know what it is? It's, you ever see that tweet that was like, I made my metalhead friend so mad because he put on a metal song in the car, and I said, you know how I know these guys aren't scary? It's because they're playing a little song. And it's just like, you know how I know that this isn't like evocative and cool for me? Because someone is putting on a ridiculous monster voice.
Yeah, but what if it sounded cool?
I would love it. If there is a cool version that's been recorded somewhere, I have yet to hear it, but I'm not saying it's not around. Just not been found by me yet.
That's fair. And you know, I think another thing I think we were talking about the other night, that I've probably brought up before is I think the harsh vocal thing is tough because it requires a kind of a buy-in and a repeated listening. Like I remember the first time I heard like the band Opeth or whatever, and I was like, I like this music, but why is the guy growling? And you know, Opeth are comparatively a pretty chill death metal band. They're a great kind of gateway, and they were certainly probably my major gateway into death metal. And I remember playing it once I did kind of get into it, playing it for my friend Vinny in high school. We were hanging out. He was like, "Don't ever make me listen to this shit again." And then a week later, we were riding the bus together, and he was like, "I changed my mind. I came back to it, and I'm starting to really like it." And then it became one of his favorite bands. And I think part of that was our age. I think part of it is being exposed to this stuff at a young enough age and not thinking it's stupid. You didn't do that. You didn't like metal. Honestly, you know, this is like the Polar Express. Like the window is closed. You didn't believe, and now you don't. The train isn't real to you, you know?
The loud extreme music I was listening to in high school was Lightning Bolt, which is a very different style of harsh vocal, where the harshness comes from the microphone he was using and the fact that he was screaming. But he was screaming the way a person does.
True. Yeah, but you know, the fact that like I think both for my friend and I at that time, we were already, I think maybe because of some of the other stuff we already liked, we were kind of primed to think that like, oh, like this riffing is interesting. Like I like, you know, it's cool to hear the double kick drum bass like that's a cool like you know, ooh, what's more of that? And then this hurdle, this thing that you're not really familiar with that just kind of sounds bad because you don't really know, like there's no context for it. You haven't heard a lot of this stuff. You've heard harsh vocals kind of parodied in pop culture or whatever. We've seen like the Cannibal Corpse appearance in Ace Ventura. You're like, oh, this is silly stuff. But if you're drawn to these other aspects of it, you spend time with it. You know, it's easier to kind of say like, oh, actually, maybe this integrates in better than I think it does. But again, I think a really crucial part of this is like there is a time window, and I think if you're like in your 30s and you're like, black metal, maybe, probably you will never like this music.
It's maybe. I do think that you're onto something with just like I'm shocked it applies to this as well. It applies to everything in the world, which is the only way to like or appreciate or be able to do something is just do it. And I don't do it is the thing, because it's just like, this, no. I'll listen to something else. And like the reason I'm like, well, maybe I could if I really put in the hours is how I've become a jazz guy in my dotage. I didn't listen to any jazz. I listened to fucking fusion, but that's just cool prog, really. That's just prog, but like not as stupid. And I love prog. And I loved it now and I love it then. But I became a jazz guy because, I'm playing piano and I want to listen to piano players who are playing music that isn't 100 years old. And that's like how you do it. You listen to jazz. And I remember like I was like first couple months I was listening to jazz albums. I'm like, this sounds like random. Like I don't really get it. I guess I'll just keep doing it. And eventually I was just like, oh, it's not random no more. I get it. This rules. And like, it's probably going to be the same thing. It's just because I don't have that repetition. I'm that guy, Vinny. It's like, don't play me that shit. I hate that shit. And I think maybe Bergtatt is sort of a you shot yourself in the foot by being too tactical, because if perhaps through getting used to it, I would come to appreciate what the harsh vocals are doing and trying to do. Well, that can't be done, because every once in a while there's the much more appealing chant vocal that resets my tolerance counter back to 0. And so, like, I don't know, maybe I go elsewhere, dive into the deep end, come back to this, and I'm like, oh, two great tastes that taste great together. Right now, it's like one great taste and then some fucking dirt.
I love the dirt, but I mean, the Opeth, the Opeth album itself, funnily enough, is also like full of like clean, like nice, pretty vocals from the guy Mikael Ackerfeld, because he, like he was a big prog guy. The early Opeth stuff is a little bit influenced by that, and that the songs are too fucking long. But this album in particular, Blackwater Park, I think kind of their breakout, probably one of the last good ones they did, really. But like, it has, he's working with the hated Steven Wilson from Porcupine Tree. They're gassing each other up about some cool stuff like Scott Walker or whatever, and then some of the lame shit that they like, and kind of infusing it to this death metal style. But like, I think maybe that was part of what made it appealing to us, is that it was not fully harsh vocals all the time. It was a thing you could ease into. But I think you are correct that in this situation, I did shoot myself in the foot. I should have really picked something just truly fucking evil. That like maybe with enough like listening to where there is no escape to nice chants, that there would have to be some kind of like detente made with the harsh vocals.
Yeah, I mean, and also the fact that the clean vocals in this are so striking and unusual.
Yeah.
It's not just like clean vocals and harsh vocals. It's harsh vocals and like eerie chants that sound like they're from another time. And it's like, that's so fucking cool. That's like, it's so appropriate. And yeah, I don't know. Good. It's pretty good. I'll tell you, I said I got Polygon Wonderland syndrome from this. And let me tell you, I think Polygon Wonderland's pretty good. I think that album's above the curve, and like I'm there for this. As much as I have my complaints, I liked it. It's fun. There were a few times. Okay, so I mentioned that the drums, there are times where it feels like the drummer misses a beat. I'm gonna put the specific. I have like specific timestamps where I'm like, I think at this time he messed up. I'm gonna put them in here. I think there's only 2 ones that I have concluded are like, this sounds wrong. Okay, that said, although like it is the sort of frenetic style that never stops is a little much. There are a couple times where he does some shit that I'm like, okay, this is good. If this was recorded more gooder, I could be down with this. Like I have been in the past a blast beat skeptic, because I'm just like, it's just like the same. You're just always doing the same. It's just it's like so uncreative. You're just picking it up off the shelf. Well, this bit in part 3, my note is, okay, this kind of blast beat is cool. I'm gonna put that in here. I like that. And I also, you mentioned this briefly. I think we should talk on this more specifically. there's audible bass on this album, and at times it is doing something other than doubling the rhythm guitar. Whoa.
Oh, yeah. It's
It's
getting
cool.
kind of zany on chapter 3 for sure.
Yes.
I dig that, and I'm glad that you did give some props to the drummer. I feel like there was a lot of sort of skepticism about this drummer. If there are some sort of like offbeat moments, like they really have not bothered me. I like the sound of the drums on this thing with some of the reverb, and I think what first struck me about this when I heard it truly and enjoyed it for the first time was the opening drum roll. It kicks ass. It's very simple, but it just sounds really, really good.
Putting it in right now. Bam.
It's a great start, and then throughout that whole track, I think a lot of the kind of drum fills and embellishments I find very satisfying. A bit of sloppiness is kind of a part of it. There are some black metal bands that I think were more technical with their drumming. As I mentioned in the chat, the band Immortal, they're at the time their drummer Abath was not, he was all right. He had some great things to recommend him. He was a little sloppy and he could not keep the pace that the guitarist really wanted. So on the album Pure Holocaust, inoffensive, not related, they sped his drum track.
Oh no!
And you can even still kind of hear some of the fills. You're like, some of them are really, really great, and the music keeps this great pace. And every now and then you're like, hold on a second. But that being said, that to me, that's a 5-star album. It's something that like you could see on paper as being a flaw, but like the package as a whole, as a totality, fucks. And I think another distinction between, say, black or death metal, beyond some of the surface level, like guitar, like tuning and riff craft, song structures or whatever, is that death metal, a little bit more in the rock tradition, has this kind of emphasis on the different constituent parts, right? There might be some guitar solos or whatever. Some groups are a little bit more percussive forward, but they all do kind of feel like these like interconnected parts that are like working together, but they have like, there's like different moments of emphasis for all of the instruments. Black metal, way more often compositionally, is about kind of creating this totality, this sort of like, as people kept saying in the Discord, this kind of wall of sound, like this kind of grand, bigger thing. And, some bands certainly have, like, there's some solos on the Ulver record that I think work pretty well. Like I said, the Hellenic bands have a lot more of a heavy metal thing going on. But generally that, like, making this big ball of dense shit that does have a granularity to it, but like is more like about that kind of overarching totality. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. This is what fucking Fripp was doing with Discipline Era. That's what he was saying he was going to do. I don't think it actually ended up that way. But like there was a bit about like there should be no lead. All the music should constantly be one clockwork mechanism that exists to make one impression.
Yeah.
And that, that's cool. I can dig that. I can dig that on paper. Can I dig that in practice? Who's to say? Got to keep trying. I do like how when he would do like the fills on the toms, it sounds so different. It's just like it's this little wappy drum sound the entire time, and every once in a while there's a fill that's like, I'm just like, could you have put that in any other time? But like, I don't know. It's pretty. I'm gonna put one of them in here. I liked it. There's a lot of pleasant stuff. I like the guitar. I do wish that the sound was a little bigger in terms of like the recording and the production value. It kind of sounds thin. I had to like turn it up past my normal music listening volume. Do you feel this?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, I think maybe this one is a bit quieter. There might be some more headroom or whatever, but I will say there were some contemporaries who took a totally different path. The Mayhem stuff sounds way different in terms of production. Emperor and Enslaved, Gehenna, they have a much crisper, kind of more, I think, a better recorded sound than some of the other black metal bands. Whereas, yeah, the Dark Throne or like the Burzum has this kind of deliberate minimalism to it that, I could see being a little frustrating. But yeah, the Ulver album. Yeah, I guess I crank it, but you know why I'm cranking it? It's because I love that shit. I got it on full volumes.
Yep, that's fair
I'm
enough.
harming myself.
I don't know. It's pretty good. The first track, I think, fucking like whips unreservedly. I have nothing but good things to say about Capitler I.
What's in your wallet?
Fuck off. The Capital One I'm gonna go to the Capital One Cafe on Southport and be like, hey, is this the music? Did you guys write this? And play it as loud as I can.
Troll-skog. I barely knowed skog.
Fuck off. But is there anything more we want to say before we read the bits? I'm gonna absolutely blow your mind, Josh. This is going long.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I probably got to bounce out of here after like probably a little less than an hour. But I've shouted this guy out in the Discord, Shelly from the blog Hate Meditations. He writes very intelligently about this stuff. If you want somebody to explain black metal to you or any extreme metal, check his fucking blog out. He's a lot more articulate about this stuff than I am.
You've been so down on yourself on this episode, Josh. I gotta say, I've been wrapped. This has been so interesting.
I appreciate that. I thank you. And I think some of that's coming from, you know about this, Tom. The listener can't know about it just yet, but I'm working on what you could call a pretty big project in my life right now.
Yes, you are.
Which I'm very excited to share with everybody sometime before Thanksgiving. That's all I'll say. So I think I didn't have I had notes for this, obviously, but I feel like I wanted to get more on paper about like how to define black metal, and I kind of fucking didn't. So but I thank you. But check out Shelly. He writes a lot of these kind of capsule reviews for classic extreme metal albums where he just kind of picks two to kind of compare and contrast. And one of them, he ended up talking about the Ulver album. He reviews it very nicely. You know, he kind of says that there's an impulse from a lot of old heads to kind of dump on this because it's something that is kind of accessible, but he's like, actually, it's good. And this is part of that post he made about Bergtatt. Mm-hmm. It goes, darker numbers, such as Capitler III, and I'm not going to try to pronounce the subtitle, broaden the emotional range of the album whilst retaining the same ethereal, dreamlike atmosphere. This is also a good moment to mention the fragmentary nature of many of these pieces. In stark contrast to the highly structured symphonic world of early Emperor, Ulver opt to lay out a series of suggestions, knitted together by loose themes and moods. The effect is akin to a series of dreamscapes, bound by their thematic content, as opposed to a formal musical structure. And I think that's kind of just sort of like a good gist of like sort of what's going on here and what's going on here compared to what some other bands in the same genre are doing.
That's good. That's real. I like that. Shelly from I Hate Love or whatever.
From Hate Meditations. So that's hatemeditations.com. And Shelly, he's a good guy. He's a left-wing guy. He's not really a, edgy, it's just music guy. Yeah, he's very good at asking questions about the kind of ideological content of some of these bands. And he just writes very well about how the music works and how it works also on a social level. He's a hell of a guy.
Hell yeah, that sounds lovely. Now let's get into the club. A lot of this week, like natural discussion that I'm not going to read out. A lot more of that than the big chunks that we usually read out, which is not good in terms of this podcast, but is great in terms of like it's really interesting to read. So like,
join the Discord.
If you are listening, two things. If you are listening to this and don't go on the Record Club Discord, one, let me know. Who are you? I don't know how many people listen to this other than like the freaks in the club. And two, you should start reading there's some good shit. There's some fucking links to crazy stuff in there. I'm looking at Patrick Cosmos doing a link to Axeman Ride into the Night. I'm looking at this.
Sick song.
There's a fucking ziggurat with a beam coming up and a big scary guy looming above it. Wow. So I'm not going to read all that, but just take it from me. This shit was very interesting to see unfold live.
Yeah, this was a really fun discussion.
Yes. Got a post from Fuddruckers official Which, well, this is what you were saying, Josh. I'm really noticing how much Ulver were listening to Celtic Frost on this one. I mean, every black metal band at the time was listening to Celtic Frost, but this is really noticeable. Also, flabby drums with a shit ton of reverb on the toms has got to be my favorite drum sound. So is that the words that describe that fill that I talked about before?
Flabby or reverb?
Flabby reverb. I don't know. That's like, flabby sounds bad. That sounds negative. It sounded good.
I'm taking it as a positive, but yeah, that is a sound that I dig too. That is certainly common to black metal, and I think especially bands that were listening to Celtic Frost. And that's another thing. If you are kind of, if you find yourself a little interested still in trying out some of this music, you could really do a lot worse than going a little bit earlier than the sort of second wave of black metal. Again, there's not really a first wave. It wasn't called black metal before that, or it was not really well defined. But it's just what we have. It's the category we have. But the 80s kind of proto black metal bands, Celtic Frost, Bathory. I mean, there's a good handful of stuff I could rattle off, but that stuff is has a lot of the building blocks. And especially a band like Celtic Frost, it's a little more accessible. That guy's voice, he's having a lot more fun. He's not doing growls or screams. He's doing something a little bit more theatrical and very, very, very endearing. I think there's a reason that like everybody who makes metal is like Celtic Frost fucking owns. It's because they do.
I gotta check them out. I mean, if I'm gonna be pretending like I'm making a serious effort to understand a large swath of art and expression, feels like I gotta listen to Celtic Frost. I feel like that's non-negotiable.
Big time.
Cool. Magwitch says, gonna have to tap out after 3 songs. I've got that cilantro gene, but for black metal. I get physically angry when they stop doing the fantasy nerd shit and do the black metal. Yeah,
Magwitch, it's all right. Listen, I would never yell at somebody who thought cilantro was disgusting. Some people love to do this. This was like 2011 era Twitter before, like 10 internets ago when things were like, you would make a post and it was just like, the damn stapler's broke or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that is, that was a type of post is like bitching at people for stuff like that they can't really, what kind of sick freak doesn't like cilantro? I don't care about that gene. And that's useless to me. So I'm not going to knock you on this, my friend.
Yeah. You have reminded me of a thing that it has always driven me fucking insane, but there's really no way to talk about it without also sounding insane. And I think I've tried to put it in a newsletter once and it didn't really, I'm not happy with how it came out. It wasn't very interesting and no one cared. And I don't even know if this is happening anymore, but they kept seeing these viral posts that were like, what food is fucking nasty? And it's like, green peppers are bullshit. They're poo-poo. And it's like, you don't like you should be fucking on your knees thanking motherfucking Gaia that there's any food at all for you to eat.
Yes.
Do you think the fact that you are conceiving of this plant as food should tell you that it's good? You don't like it? That's a fucking opinion. The food that's bad, the plants that are actually bad, you're not naming them because no culture on the planet has considered them food. Like, if it's food, it's good. That's my thought. There's food I hate. I can't eat shellfish in much the same way that I hear the harsh vocals and I go, oh no, if I have a shellfish in my mouth and my teeth touch it, out it goes. We talked about it on the most recent Anime Sickos episode. I hate it. I really wish I could like that shit because I know it's good. How do I know it's good, Josh? Because it's food.
Yeah.
Anywho.
It's the stuff of life. Yeah.
Exactly. Flip side of that is if someone doesn't like something, I know it's not out of spite because the things I don't like are a burden on me and I wish I could be different. Anywho, typing after 3 songs on a 5-song album is not that bad. That's like most of it.
That's true. Yeah. I'm sorry you missed track 4, which didn't have any of the scary stuff on it. Maybe that would have been cool. I do like that kind of the droning kind of, stones knocking percussion on that is I find very soothing, and this very very kind of enrapturing music.
Do we know that that's stones knocking? I thought that was just hitting the rim.
It probably is, but it just kind of feels like rocks to me.
I guess, yeah, and it, even if it's not rocks, it's like supposed to be rock. It's like, footsteps in movies aren't really footsteps. They're
That's
other
right.
things.
That guy probably was not running in the snow in the Ulver album.
Oh, that probably is running. I think that is just like they went to the woods and ran around.
They had a guy on a piano on like a dolly following him.
Yeah, one take, all live. Hell yeah. Magwitch continues, black metal just sounds like nothing to me. The intensity gets so high that it goes back to zero. Like when you try to look at a sine wave from too far away and it just becomes a solid block that looks like a flat line. And then Mr. Motion says what I believe you will say, which is, this is a feature to me. Yeah. Oh, this truly was the big. I remember reading this when it was first posted, and I'm reading it again. My brain's getting huge. Magwitch's conclusion, which is, part of what we discussed in Record Club but never really named, and I'm calling it yin and yang music. In yin music, there isn't a lot of change. You can have walls of pure sound, like in black metal, or a guy droning on a synth, and it just has to not change. But then there's yin music, for Record Club, that's mainly jazz, where the music is like a Tom and Jerry chase. I got that ADHD, so I like it when the changes happen, but get bored when they don't. So black metal is not too different from listening to static at times. The yin and yang music is so smart.
That's interesting. Yeah, I was into that. Although I gotta say, and I think it just comes with like exposure and like really delving deeper into this stuff. Is that I assume maybe a guy's running on a synth, but like more in my experience, like black metal, like that sort of like the closer you look at that sine wave, you see all these like little worms moving around and stuff. Like like there are like there's like a lot of deliberate like alterations and changes and things that are like what make it music and not just like whatever the fuck, like there's a lot of granularity for those with ears to hear, but it is true that like when you turn it on and you just hear like it's loud, it's like you're not going to pick up on that at all, and it's going to probably again make a lot of people just kind of turn it off. Again, I don't blame anybody for that, but trust me that it's there. I'm not a flim-flamist.
Sabrina has and she says baby observations, but I want to I always do. There's no observation too small, and it's always good to reflect on art. So keep doing it. More sedate than I expected. Then the second track started, Lamau. That was very pleasant. I like the shifting between fast and slow parts. That made the long tracks feel not so long. That's true. The long track, that a lot of 8-minute songs, and you don't feel it because they're stitched together from Legos.
Yeah, that is, I think, the building blocks in this kind of what Shelley from Hate Meditations was saying. They do have this great, these shifts. They make those long song lengths easier. And some other bands, from the same scene, Enslaved, who might be worth checking out. They kind of ended up becoming more of a prog band in the 2000s. Not my favorite era of their stuff, but it's another kind of maybe good entry point into some black metal. But they have shit from their prime era. They're opening one of their albums with like a 13-minute motherfucking song that does have, I would say, one of the silliest and jauntiest keyboard riffs in all of black metal. You're like, there's a guy doing a jig in like an elf tavern to this shit somewhere.
So what is the song called? I'm going to find it and put that bit.
It's by Enslaved, and it's called Lifandi Lif Undir Hamri, which I don't know if you could find that easily, but it's the first track on the album Vikinglingar Veldi, I think it's pronounced.
Viking something, whatever. I'll find it. Cool.
It fucking whips ass.
Hell yeah. I forgot where you were going with that. I got totally sidetracked by the jaunty jig.
Oh, I'm done. But okay, yeah, these things, they help. Some of these artists do know how to use these song links pretty well.
Okay.
And then I got to tell you, some of them don't.
Yeah, I like a long song, even if it's stupid. I say that even as I just said, like, this could have been a single, this could have been an EP, cut half it out. I don't know. It's just like some of I think what it is, some of the sections for me outlive their welcome, especially when it is very repetitive. There's obviously a lot of repetition baked in, but some of these chunks really lean on it. And I'm like, oh my God, next part, please. Next part, please. Anyway, about that. Well, Sasha has given an incredible amount of response. Sasha
Shout
is the
out to
one who,
Sasha.
yeah, she was the one who shared the translated lyrics and the general gist of the story, and
Yes, which I really appreciate. I gotta say, I do feel bad, Sasha. I did mean to look more into the other sort of Norse sort of folk songs that you posted, but again, I'm bogged down by my super secret project, and I did not get a chance to give that the attention I wanted.
it's a really cool project.
But yeah, I shout out Sasha for really fucking putting the manpower in and checking out some other stuff and like yeah having a lot of nice things to say and interesting like observations. So shout out.
She says this: Bergtatt tells the familiar story of an unlucky young human getting lost in the forest and being taken and killed by trolls, or elves, or fairies. Die Underjordisk, the underground people, could refer to Svalten, Svartalfar, Dolkalfar, dark elves, or trolls. Trolls can be a lot of things in Scandinavian folklore and myth. Whether troll means more a human-like troll folk versus godlike, titan-like Jotnar versus monstrous Thurs is rather muddy, much like metal genres. Trolls can also refer to sorcery or spells, and many stories and songs from after the Christianization of Scandinavia associate trolls et al. With paganism and a desire to kill, eat, or generally pester Christian folk. I put some examples in the regular music channel. The lyrics are sung in archaic Dano-Norwegian. This is a block quote. In an interview with Rob Hughes for Unrestrained magazine in 2007, Christopher Rig reflected, "We were influenced by a period known as the Kingdom of Denmark-Norway, 1536 to 1814. The language and literature of that era combined with the superstition and folklore of the Middle Ages. It was the kind of stuff we were learning about in school at the time." Oh my God, that's adorable.
Yeah.
They went to high school and learned about trolls and wrote
And they were like,
Bergtatt.
that's cool. What if we what if we put that shit in the air?
When it comes to music, you're already listening to a whole slew of other things and already had our next two records in mind. So by the time Nathan's Magical was released, we had developed a strong urge to explore something else. We'd also acquired the knowledge of how to do so in the meantime. Block quote over. Sasha is back. I am duly impressed that Ulver made this album at such a young age and overall enjoyed the listening experience. It's moody, atmospheric, and often feels like the artists are really playing with what sounds they can string together, which is always fun to hear. Should I read the fucking... She has a paragraph for every single song.
That's true. I might not be able to hack out reading all those out loud. Yeah, but I mean, definitely shout out Sasha for doing the track by track is really good. And if you're not in the Discord reading the shit, you're a fucking loser.
I will just skip to the bottom where she says, overall, this is good shit. I personally would have liked if some of the sound effects and folky acoustic instrumentation were interwoven with the black metal style. And throughout every chapter, for storytelling reasons and for consistency of sound, instead of like plopping something different in for each one. But I don't know. This could have been a matter of resources as well as Ulver's stylistic choices.
Facts. And I would recommend to Sasha and really anybody listening to this, you might have heard this band already. There's an American sort of Pacific Northwest, more contemporary black metal band called Agalok, who are taking a lot out of the Ulver page, and I think are similarly derided by some of the really hardcore kind of orthodox black metal people as being a little too popular, a little too many non-metal elements, but they have a kind of folk sort of black metal integration that I think probably works a little more streamlined than this. And I think their album, The Mantle, is really great. I like them. They're not, maybe they are overrated by the rate your music people or whatever, but I think their stuff is fucking cool. And if you were digging some of that but wanted a more mature approach, I guess musically, Agalok rules. Check them out.
Agalok. This is from Lindsay. The metal dunce has logged on. From what I've experienced of it, metal seems to be a genre where every member of the band is doing the most musicianship they possibly can, all at once, all the time, and very loudly. I think that's true. Is that true?
Yeah, I think there's truth in that for sure.
It's really good at heightening the mood in a fight or flight kind of way, which I presume is a big part of its reputation as a subculture. I was listening to track 3 and thinking, damn, this sounds like being at the center of a blustering squall. And then a few seconds later, there was a crashing sound effect that sounded almost like a lightning crack, and I felt like a genius. As effective as that is, I can't help but feel like engaging with it over extended periods tends to sound like the musical equivalent of spamming the same power move over and over. The folkish interludes are really good and give this some much needed texture, and that prevents this from becoming the big bowl of mush that Endless was. That was one of the early Record Club albums. It was a doom metal album that I did not love.
Who's the artist on that?
Holy Serpent.
I'm not familiar.
Australian band. They're current. I know, but don't hold it against them. I wish it wasn't always such a hard juxtaposition between the two styles, though. I don't know what it's supposed to sound like when they're blended together. Maybe I even missed the moments when they did. They did a few times. There was a couple of moments where there was an acoustic line over the... It wasn't like amazing, but it did happen. But when they show that they're capable of doing both, it can also feel like they're coasting on easy mode. Not that there's anything wrong with this either. I don't know. I'm not very knowledgeable at this. I can tell there's a lot going on in here, and I don't dislike it. But for me, it only adds up to the sum of its parts. P.S. Reading back through the chat, and wow, I didn't know these were just kids making this music. That makes a lot more sense. Non-derogatory.
Thank you, Ray. I see what you mean, Lindsay, about the sort of doing the most all at once, very loudly. And I think that does apply more to black metal, kind of like I was saying earlier, the sort of totality or whatever. But you know, even in black metal, but the other sides of luxury metal, I think tension and release are still pretty big compositional kind of north stars, you know. And it's another thing that you kind of pick up the more you listen to stuff and the more you kind of re-listen to things and hear the structures. Like it's out there, but I think it is not wrong to say that this shit is extra.
Yeah,
all at once.
Yeah. Deathbot says, this album mostly makes me think about when I was listening to various black/folk metal a bunch in high school in the late 2000s. One of those ones that's hard to comment on too much for me because I'm doing that classic thing of I'm listening to an old genre staple and hearing other stuff that came out nearly 15 years later in it, mostly thinking of other stuff that I got to spin for the first time in years to cement that little network of context in my head. Crazy to me that this goes that far back. This kind of reminds me of shoveling snow and that giant-ass H-shaped driveway we had, like the eerie, dense silence and the big repetitive drone of it all, the heat and the pumping blood and the intensity of when it all reaches a fever pitch, the calmer, echoey bits of relief when I go in to get a glass of water.
That's really evocative. Thank you, Deathbot. I'm glad that you were on a nice reverie in this. I hope you enjoyed it. And keep bouncing around, listening to all those things this reminds you of. Get that genealogy in there. Become an obsessive nerd. It's good for you.
That fucking the fucking synapse firing where the network all lights up is like the best. That's like what. Obviously, most everyone likes music. There are some freaks who don't. Sorry for them. But like the reason you be a music nerd is for that network shit, and like that was what is like the Stereolab record Patrick Cosmos picked. Like it's very good, but like perhaps the thing it does best is facilitate that shit. Because like because of that, I finally listened to Tortoise TNT, and I'm like, oh my god, this does fucking whip. And like, wait,
it does. Oh my god, yeah.
Jeff Parker, the guitarist Jeff Parker, he's a feature on Amaro Freitas, Yeah, which is a great fucking jazz album that I had put on Record Club. And it's like, oh my god, I gotta listen to more Jeff Parker then, because if he's doing this and that and doing the same thing, it's great. People are like, how can I find new music if I don't use Spotify's Discover Today? Easily is how.
So easily. People did it forever until like 5 years ago.
Also, it's going to be all AI in a year. So learn to fucking wean yourself off from that quick. Anyway.
Local files, you fucking suckers.
Ben says, I wouldn't say I enjoyed this album on its face, but I was able to get there by adding certain modifiers, recalling my sullen teenage years, reading comics about fighting guys, or imagining a holy battle between stoic medieval warriors in a snow-covered forest.
That's right.
My favorite parts were anytime a guitar solo happened, and whenever the angelic voice would soar over the grinding distortion, which thankfully was most of the time. The vocals made me think of an austere but spacious wooden chapel with a very high, echoey ceiling. I think they were able to lock in some really solid riffs that were exactly where they needed to be so that I could vividly picture the fighting snowy men in their doomed conflict. Hell yeah. Least favorite is that screaming guy. It's the same guy, dude. Thanks to those who clarified that, yes, by screaming standard, this is not particularly good screaming. You would disagree. Do people actually like good screaming, though? Or is it more like nu metal has the rapper and black metal has the screamer? Like it's just part of the scene? I feel myself aging in real time as I ask this.
Oh, Ben, you are a very good poster and a very good contributor in Tom's Record Club, but you're egging me on, aren't you? This is a trap. You're trying to make me mad online, and it's not going to work.
You gotta resist.
No, but I do love the images you are painting here are sick, and if you're able to get into this music, that's the world that you're entering. You know.
I mean, I feel like if you're listening to this and you're seeing the snowy men, like you're so close.
Yeah.
Like, because like that is it. Mind Trap Dragon, parentheses Randy. I'm not really a metal guy, which is to say, I found about 95% of this album to be pretty all right. That being said, I have a pretty basic take for this one. I like the atmospheric vibe and the kind of chanty, ethereal vocals, and the instrumentation mostly was pretty rad. However, almost every section with harsh vocals were not my bag. Apart from the vocals themselves, it felt like they went from just playing instruments to making noise. The only part that I think is the exception to this was on Bergtatt, the fifth one, at 2:45. The growly vocals are definitely still not my thing, but at least the drums and guitar don't sound all muddied together. I'm going to put that clip in here. I didn't get that during the growly parts, the instrumentation got muddier. I was mostly focusing on like, when is he going to stop doing that? I don't know. From Platinum Quill, Ulver is a new one for me, but I'm passively familiar with black metal, so I wasn't rudderless on this one. Didn't really take the opportunity to read the lyrics, but the description I'm seeing of them in previous messages is easy to see in the music. The juxtaposition of this really quite fragile and ethereal beauty in the flute, acoustic guitar, and harpsichord, I think. I don't recall harpsichord being in this. Against the plodding of great metallic hooves in these brutal sections is something that conjures imagery of the wild hunt to me. Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Apt, I think, given the subject matter, but it was a thought I'd had before seeing anything posted here. Given these guys' age when they recorded this, I stand impressed in both artistic direction and musical talent. I have one major issue and some nitpicks, but only on my own instrument, so I don't know how much value there is in critiquing drumming technique besides some of what was already covered early in the chat. The harsh vocals were passable, but not very well executed. I say as a person who can't do that without destroying my larynx, but does enjoy a harsh vocalist from time to time. I found the clean vocals really nice, but I don't speak Norwegian, so there wasn't much to latch onto. My humongous issue was the recording quality, and moreover the genre conventions that really trapped this piece of work. Fast and dirty recording has its place in music and is often really quite nice when it's constructive to the art, but I feel the recording setup really failed these guys. I'd said this already, but I'll recover. There are places in the drumming patterns that feel like a missed note or like he dropped a stick, and it takes some careful listening for me to realize that there is no overhead mic to capture the crash cymbals. So these spaces are when an accented crash would be, but most of the actual sound just never made it to the mix, and all that's left is a dip in volume and a sonic sizzle of reverberating brass. I think I know what part she is talking about because I have it in my notes, which is like, this cymbal sounds so funny because I'm just like, it's so little. It's like hitting a baby cymbal. What is the point? And if it's this, it's like, oh, it was a mistake.
Overhead mic, not black metal, not cult, not true, banished.
yeah. Fuck. Is anyone left? Anyone left? I don't think there's anyone left to read out. That's a lot of haters, Josh. People aren't on your level. They're not as smart as you when it comes to troll-skog.
Perhaps in the region of black metal, but I shout out a lot of people were really giving this a fair shot. Mr. Emotion, shout out. You were out there doing your best, and it seemed like you got some out of the album, even if some things like the harsh vocals don't always work. And shout out to Action Hentai Masterpiece for saying, I just like the screaming with the nice warm fuzzy emoji. I agree. That's the emoji that I'm hearing when I'm listening to this shit. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I'm not really like surprised or even disappointed that this is not like the biggest fucking hit. But I wanted to give everybody a shot to get onto the nothing but black metal November mindset. I'm glad that Sasha brought up too the sort of Christianization of Scandinavia looms very large in black metal. A lot of these bands are, and I think there's partly a reaction to globalization, right? The fact that like you go to high school and you learn like Norway used to be like this big, majestic, forest country and people did all this stuff. And now you can go to the McDonald's that the evil West has imported into your,
Yeah.
these things get erased. And obviously you can see how some of those complaints get channeled into being racist or whatever. People are just mad at immigrants. But I think a lot of this is a kind of an understandable knee-jerk reaction to this kind of loss of control. This sort of like the world is kind of changing in this rapid, kind of scary way, sometimes really for the worst. Again, I don't think there needs to be a McDonald's in every single fucking country.
Yeah.
But it's so funny. Like Burzum, there was a little talk earlier in the chat about Burzum and Varg Vikernes, the kind of the bad boy of the Norwegian black metal scene who killed Euronymous, who is like, if you call him a Nazi, he gets really mad. He's one of these guys who's like, I'm not a Nazi. I'm a racialist wotanist or whatever. And it's like, okay, buddy. But
I call for the Holocaust of an entirely different type of people.
Yeah, come on. But I think the Burzum records, the good Burzum records are truly incredible. If I understand why somebody would not want to listen to them, but I think they're worthy of discussion. Much like Wagner, he is like a brilliant guy who like also should be killed.
He did, so it happened.
Sometimes I was looking at a blog a couple days ago while I was reading some black metal stuff, and I found somebody who was just totally out of their depth, who just was like, the white face paint represents a desire for more whiteness, or what? It just somebody who was like doesn't know about black metal and is just like, I'm going to write about how this is scary to me. And it's very funny being afraid of Varg Vikernes, particularly a man who wrote a song called "The Crying Orc." Like, and frankly, the only person he's ever hurt is a different, annoying white guy. There's really, like he's not really a danger to anybody. He just posts sometimes that he's like, man, I wish Norway was whiter. And it's like, yeah, you're a dumb piece of shit. But like, he like lives out of like a Winnebago with his family in like the south of France. He makes records that nobody listens to anymore. You know what? Go with God, Varg. Wotan. Whatever you
Go with
fucking
Wotan,
stupid
yeah.
freak.
May Mugen and the second one show you the way. Anyway, Scandinavia is very interesting because like it does feel like it's Europe, and Europe is the EU and globalization, but like even now as like an outsider, it does like feel like Scandinavia is like a whole different thing. It's not Europe, It's not Russia. And the fact that it's like sort of geographically isolated and also cold. Yeah, I can see like if I'm a youth and it's just like this, you live in a weird fucking place that is far from anywhere else. And it used to be really badass and have its own crazy mythology with fun stories with that have an unusual tone for mythology and religion, compared to like Greek and Roman gods and then the Judeo-Christian religion. It's like they're different. Like the whole tone and feel is weird. And your ancestors used to go and kick British ass and kill them and steal things from them a lot.
That's cool.
They were scared of them. And now though you're in you gotta use the internet and go to McDonald's. Like, yeah, that would piss me off. I mean, I hate going to McDonald's and using the internet, and I'm from fucking America. So what does that tell you?
The main exporters. Yeah.
This kicks ass. I'm glad that I listened to this. I think I will. I don't know if I'm gonna ever become a true lover of this, but I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna listen to those albums that you said. I'm gonna try Transylvanian Hunger. I'm gonna try some Celtic Frost. I'm gonna try an Emperor album. We'll see.
Sick.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
we could talk. I'll wrap it up in the sickos Discord. I would maybe a couple suggestions for further listening. But yeah, man, Norway is cold. They got a crazy suicide rate. And people die in the wilderness, and we are praying to Thule or whoever for Snorri and his companion. It is crazy that he, as under the moniker Thorns, recorded some really early Norwegian black metal demos that did help define a lot of the guitar approaches, especially. Pretty influential guy. After that, he made some kind of lame, like industrial black metal that doesn't sound as cool. But he has his place in the Mount Rushmore of these kind of people that develop this shit. So I hope that he does not die in the wilderness. Although to be fair, if you gotta go and you're a black metal guy and you're not gonna like kill yourself or set somebody on fire, dying in the wilderness, that's pretty fucking black metal, dog.
Yeah. That is real. Okay, so I think we're done with Bergtatt. Over Bergtatt. Interesting. Maybe it will take me on a journey, but I'm glad I listened to it, and I'm glad that you recommended it, and I'm especially glad that you allowed me to sit and listen to fun facts for a long time, because that, I mean, I said the reason to be a music nerd is for that synapse of network recognition to light up. But that's only half the truth. The other half is fun facts, and I got a bunch. So thank you
It's
very
true, man.
much.
Thank you for keeping a fucking open mind and going on this journey with me. I don't have a whole lot of metal friends, so it's kind of nice to have somebody to talk about this with.
Well, maybe I will become a real metal friend at some point, but right now I'm happy to be at least the open-minded trier outer until further notice. And I'm speaking of something that you don't have to have an open mind to love. And if you say this is bad, I'll fucking kill you. I really struggled with like, oh God, what should I pick for next week? It's been a while since I picked something. What am I going to pick? And I had all these thoughts, and maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll do something unusual. But. No, you know what? I'm going to go fucking as obvious as it gets and pick something straight down the middle, especially because when this came out, I was losing my mind over it, and I couldn't find anyone who was similarly excited and similarly blown away by it. I am talking about the Let It Bleed edition of the Replacements album Tim. Now, the Replacements are one of my favorite bands, and the reason is because they're one of the best bands that ever was. And their albums are some of the best albums that ever was. And Tim, their album, I believe it was their major label debut. It's one of the best albums that ever was. But famously, It was produced by Tommy Ramone, who was no longer going by the Ramone name because he had... and it sounds...
those guys aren't all brothers?
No, it sounds like fucking shit. The original release of Tim sounds terrible. It is so thin. It is so trebly. And as if you read the Replacements book Trouble Boys, which I highly recommend, something that you will constantly find is that the Replacements, for almost every single one of their records, hated everyone on the crew who was working on it and were talking shit about them to their faces the entire process because they were really rude guys. That's something that comes across all the time. And they really hated Tommy Ramone. And they were saying, like, in the, like when you're a major label debut, they're supposed to be doing press and promoting the record. In the press, they were like, Tommy Ramone is fucking deaf. He can't hear. He had to put headphones on and crank it up just to hear what the fucking song was. It sounds awful. And like, you chalk that up to the Replacements being the Replacements, but they're right. And you know how I know they're right? Because the Let It Bleed edition of Tim, which came out a couple of years ago, has a new, it's several discs, but only listen to the first disc. Because the first disc is just Tim, the album, but remixed by a engineer named Ed Stasium, who is a veteran. He's not like a famous name, but like he's a guy who's mixed hundreds of albums. And oh my God, they were right. Tommy Ramone is fucking deaf. It sounds like a completely new record, and it takes the songs from Tim, which were fucking classic perfect songs, aside from a couple that were duds. But the good ones were good enough. And it's like you were listening under a blanket all this time, and like this is what it really was supposed to be all along. It is amazing. There's the Let It Bleed edition of Tim. If you are listening to Tim and the album cover on whatever streaming service is 4/5 of the bottom of the album cover is a gray hallway, and the top fifth is a purple band with a silhouette of a guy with a guitar. Don't do that. You're listening to the wrong one. That's the original. If you are listening to Tim and the album cover is the band standing in a room, and Paul Westerberg is kneeling in front of the drum set, and there is a warm sort of orange color palette to it, that's the right one. Tim, Let It Bleed edition, disc 1, the Ed Stasium mix. You were going to want to listen to that. That's the one. It's so good, and if you say it's bad, I'll fucking kill you. Anyway.
Dog. This is such a good pick. I am excited to hear this mix. I don't think I've heard it before, but Here Comes a Regular was one of my favorite songs of all time. And
it's unbelievable.
Now there's a song that will put you into a deep Norwegian style depression.
Did you read the story about Here Comes a Regular in Trouble Boys? It's like so much of the fact that the replacements were what they are doesn't make any fucking sense, because like Paul was an asshole who all of his behavior suggests this is like a mean idiot. Like this, there is no art in this idiot's soul. He exists only to hurt himself and others. And then he comes into the studio one day and it's just like, I wrote a new song, and he lays down fucking Here Comes a Regular, and everyone's like crying. Like, how? How? From your brain?
Some people have it, man. These guys, they were a bunch of cut-ups in Minneapolis. They were all too young to be drinking and doing that many drugs. They were fucking knuckleheads, but I will be damned if they did not have a huge impact on music and on me. So this is very exciting. Great fucking pick, man.
Hell yeah. I've been meaning to do it for ages, and I'm just like, why am I waiting? Best, one of the best. Anyway, we got to go. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.